Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Friday, January 29th. So, yeah. I guess I logged in yesterday. So I don't have a daily quest and that we won't trigger until probably 30 minutes from now. But I kind of logged in and then I was trying to log in with my phone and then the download to get the update to play on my phone was too much because I was not on Wi-Fi. So that messed up some of my ambition because I was actually going to play a little bit off screen, but I guess we won't. We still need one Dragoncraft for Bloodcraft victory, but I think it would be easier to go with Forcecraft unless we absolutely want Shadowcraft. Let's also see, apparently we have some new cards we can get too. Alright, so what's new here? We have a bundle here that would require crystals, aka real world money, or these cards here, which, what does auto reveal do, by the way? Oh, that seems like a new button. I don't think... No, we don't want to open that either. I don't think we're at the point yet where we have expanded cards. And I guess the easiest way to check this out would be to just go over here and see where we are at as far as cards in the Eternal Awakening series. Eternal only crafting. We've got 9 pages. We are in craft mode. So what are we missing? Yeah, nothing. Or nothing really. Maybe. No, we have like a full collection of having at least one of something. Some of these I also got through a free temporary gym deck. So that they're temporary cards, but that doesn't matter. So it is not the time to use the packs that we're holding up and waiting for. So yeah, okay. Then that means we are still just trying to get Fortune's Hand to 400. So let's buy just one pack of that. For the accountability section today, I kind of want to rush because I'm playing Lorelei, the horror adventure game sequel to The Cat Lady in Downfall. Apparently, it is called the Devil Came Through Here trilogy, although I still feel like I'd prefer to just call it the Cat Lady trilogy, although I guess that's not very accurate at all, considering how the Cat Lady is the second game in the series. So we'll probably lose 5 times anyways. Let's just do Shadowcraft for the heck of it. Lorelei took a while to kind of get moving, but now that it is moving, I'm fairly interested in seeing the story moving forward, so I would like to play it more. I had something else to do yesterday, so both pretty much Tuesday and Thursday of this week, very little progress was made, but a little bit of progress was made. I had to reboot my server, and at some point I had set up like increased security on the bootloader, which is called Grub for Linux. It's Grub 2. I think it's probably something like GNU recovery utility booter or something like that. It's probably what it stands for. I don't even know. But yeah, there's a way to put passwords on it so that people can't just reboot your computer and potentially bypass logging in, which still you would need a BIOS password to stop people from plugging in a USB drive, and I haven't quite yet set that up because I wanted to do that. But I had set it up wrong. I put a line of code in the wrong place. So when I went to reboot my server, it just hung at that boot screen when it should automatically boot and log in to a unprivileged login. There probably is some way that you could fairly easily interrupt the boot process after grub and still take over control. But yeah, whatever little moments of security I can add, I'll try to have that. Like you always want to try and harden your steel to use a forging technique with security, which there was an interesting story that the Super User Do program actually has a flaw in it, and so everybody needs to upgrade their Linux builds almost certainly. But yeah, that's pretty much all I did, is just reboot the server, and I'm making small tweaks here and there, but I'm not getting deep into messing with my server, which there definitely is some stuff I need to do. Like I need to get the old server to actually use the iSCSI setup so that it's actually giving the hard drives over to the new server, and there's really no reason not to do that. I'm not going to be able to accomplish that through Docker, unfortunately. Which pretty much means there's no reason to even try to have a Docker build for the old server, which is just now going to be a network attached storage device. I might get the new case I wanted to get, but I might put it off too. There's kind of no big motivation there. And the other side projects I've worked on and mostly backburnered are shifting in scope, certainly, because there's newer and newer technology coming out that might be better options to use instead of the old hardware I was thinking about using a year ago. But also a lot of the projects I was thinking about don't make a lot of sense in the middle of a pandemic world, or just aren't worth the effort anyways. They've done something for Android Chrome for me now where it's trying to it is actively forcing me to group tabs together more, and I just absolutely hate that they made a change without asking. But I've had way too many tabs open on my cell phone's Chrome browser anyway, so it's not like there isn't some logic behind it. 2 defense or less. So, yeah. Things are changing a little bit, but yeah, I'm still mostly trying to focus on Lorelei. I'm not sure I'll do any more horror games for the second Halloween, which because Lorelei does feel like it's a game that's going a little bit longer than I thought it would, even though there was a whole chapter that went by fairly fast. It's kind of difficult, if not just unwelcome, to spoil the events of Lorelei at this point. It does seem like more and more that the thematic part about Lorelei is that there is horror in living and growing up and having a life, whereas the cat lady was more thematically around the idea of the horror of dying and being suicidal and having already given up on life. And yeah, is there anything else to really even talk about? My network also is still weird. Like last stream, there was absolutely no problems with my network, and then like 5 minutes later, once I started using my cell phone, I started having problems. I think this is pretty much confirmed to me that this is a Wi-Fi issue I've been running into, not an overall larger issue. Although there are still some tweaks and things that need to be worked on. So yeah, there's a weakness in my Wi-Fi on the 5 gigahertz band. I knew there was some weakness, but I didn't realize that it had somehow gotten to the level of causing actual just loss of connectivity for several minutes. So it is a possibility somebody somewhere put in a new 5 gigahertz router and it's competing. But yeah, had I been a little bit smarter, I would have put my Wi-Fi router directly in the center of my house instead of on the far end of my house that is far away from all the bedrooms and where people would be most of the time using a cell phone. So yeah, that was one of several mistakes that in retrospect I could tweak. However, for my current house compared to previous houses I've had where I've done nerdy projects, I have not come anywhere close so far to a point where I feel like now is the time to move and start the projects over again. It really would only be a matter of having somebody crawl through the roof to move the wires around, to move my Wi-Fi router, and that very well might happen at some point in the future. It's just not a high enough priority, particularly considering how much that would probably cost me. And I've had several other projects that have come out decent enough that there's no justification to start over again. Where in the past I have had houses where a lot of the projects have gone really badly. A lot of that being my fault. Trying something without being smart enough or experienced enough to do it, or just not hiring people when I should have hired people who would have been perhaps more experienced or more qualified.
Why'd it have to be a clear day?
So yeah, ideally in this scenario is I'm gonna try over the course of the weekend and next week to not get distracted and finish Lorelei and maybe move on to another game. And ideally I'd like to even wrap up this stream fairly quickly, so let's just hop into the video game news. I'm trying to think if there's anything specific video game news wise that we should talk about that I don't have an article for. body motion capture actress, I believe, for Resident Evil that plays one of the witches. She apparently died, maybe because of pandemic or some other reason. That's sad news, and particularly since you're talking like somebody who just worked on a project, um, compared to like the way it has been in the past, where there was somebody that worked on the game decades ago and then they passed of natural causes.
No different from the rest.
The GameStop trading stuff is still going, with Robinhood stopping people from buying more shares of GameStop, and they're very mad at Robinhood now. At a certain point, this is more of a Wall Street revolution and Wall Street revolt story than it is a video game story. And I'm still not sure that this isn't a pump and dump of some sort, because I don't know what the way Wall Street Bets works and the way they type everything, it all is very meme-ish, trollish language. So that is all around just holding and holding and holding the shares always. So, like, at what point do you sell? You either have to sell it to somebody, or you have to hope for a stock buyback at the highest price possible, or you promote a like direct hostile takeover. One thing that they hadn't mentioned before, I hadn't heard before, is that apparently GameStop is like oversold by 130%. So there's apparently some legal way you can sell more shares. Well, that 30% might be because of the short sellers, actually. Yeah, I guess that would explain it, because otherwise there shouldn't be a way that you would be over 100% there.
Can I interest you in reasonably priced clothes?
Okay.
Damn it!
But yeah, I don't know if there's real video game news around that at all. The only thing I could think is if GameStop came out.
Guns speak. You just gotta listen.
See, the real psycho thing here to do would be if the controlling shareholders, the board members of the board and such of GameStop, all sold all of their shares at this high point. Like, the board effectively saying, we're out, we're taking the profit and we're running. We can let all of the people of Wall Street Bets have the company. Which I don't know if there's anything particularly illegal from that. Like, there really is not stopping anything from, like, the controlling interest of GameStop to sell their shares, because they're not part of our Wall Street Bets at the high. And then the next time there's a shareholders meeting called, which would be very quickly, like, Wall Street Bets would potentially be the controlling majority partner, and they can make the calls. There might be some weirdness there where a bunch of Reddit users end up owning GameStop, which honestly, that's not a terrible thought, really, because the people that own GameStop right now are not running the business well. And I do think video game people would like for there to be a video game store of some sort that exists. So maybe they could run it better. Anyways, that's just mostly speculation. Here we have Yakuza 5 Remastered on Steam for $19.99. I'm a little surprised that Yakuza 5 is only $19.99 here. I'm going to put this on the following list just to make sure that there's not something I'm missing here. I don't know if I really want to play the Yakuza series, though. We also have Yakuza 3 Remastered. So apparently they're just releasing the entire Yakuza series in remastered formats for $19.99 also. But these remastered versions, now they just came out according to their release date. So maybe there's something there around the idea that they're not the Yakuza Like a Dragon series, which might be remakes of the old games. So yeah, there might be something more to that. Let me just open that back up and let's see. Yakuza Like a Dragon 1. See. I think this game is kind of the remake of the first game. So I guess the question comes down to whether you think they're going to remake the rest of the games or not. The Yakuza series, I will say, is just so Japanese, whereas everything else gets localized. You really couldn't localize this easily. You would either have to end up putting it in just a weird fictionalized world with Westerners being reskinned, or you would have to make them mobsters and play on stereotypes that as a Japanese company they probably shouldn't play on. So you can see in this video it is crazy looking. Okay. Let's do that. And do that. Yeah. On the other hand, I suppose it would be kind of silly not to play the Yakuza games, because it's kind of so unique in that story. It's kind of like making an argument, I don't want to watch the Godfather movies because the Godfather movies are just a story I'm not normally used to seeing. That doesn't make any good sense. I haven't actually sat through watching any of the Godfather movies, but I should. I know I should. I'm not gonna have a good argument really to have not watched them, other than I've just not gotten around to it. Moving on, we have a game called Super Neo Tanks, which just looks like some neon colored pixels. It's 99 cents, English only. It looks like it's a clone of the game Tanks, with maybe some new level design. I am definitely not getting anywhere with this deck. Here we have a game on Steam called Toho. There's Toho is like an animation studio, but Toho doesn't mean anything to me. It's from the Irregular Corporation as the publisher. Well, this looks like a point and click. It's $13.49, English full audio. Let's see, digital art book and soundtrack also. I'll put it on the fault list. That feels like a somewhat possible quality game. We've got another game here called Spirit Routes that came out in 2019 and only had 8 user reviews. This doesn't look terrible, but it would be hard to justify playing this game now. Yeah, and it doesn't seem like it's reviewed well enough. So going from a platformer to a point and click does kind of imply that they learned they weren't good enough to make a platformer. And the Irregular Corporation is also the publisher of Murder by Numbers and PC Building Simulator. And that's why I recognized it. Okay. Next we have a game called Chroma, Bloom, and Blight, which looks like it's a card game. Looks like it might be decent. It's free to play with in-app purchases, single and online PvP, like any other collectible card game would be. Really feel like any card game really needs a gimmick, but I'll put this on the following list anyways, just in case I need a backup card game to play.
I'm so lonely.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I feel like all collectible card games need some sort of gimmick, whether it's something like Shadowverse, which goes for more of the anime cute girl style, but frankly, it doesn't go far enough to my taste in that direction, and self-centered, Yu-Gi-Oh! In the same way, or Hearthstone that is based off World of Warcraft and has had the support of Activision Blizzard back when that was a useful and important thing to have, or Magic the Gathering having the legacy of decades of Magic the Gathering, which I guess Magic the Gathering Arena was coming out with a cell phone version, but I haven't heard any talk of it at all, so either it's still not out yet, or nobody bothered to review the mobile cell phone version of it. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised one bit if they actually just delay the release of it. Here, Tech Raptor has an article. The Yakuza Remastered PC port is solid if unexceptional. So. Yeah. Let's see. It's just an article. Yakuza at its worst is still far better than most mainstream games, so I have no problem recommending 3 to 5 to anyone. They are available Game Pass both for PC and Xbox One, so then give them a try. If you don't need to start with any particular title, you don't need to start with any particular title, but being able to experience the story in chronological order is awesome. That each game is freed from the shackles of its base hardware is also kind of treatment I'd like to see in a lot of older classics. So they're saying Yakuza 3 to 5 are worth playing, which brings about the question, is 1 and 2 not available in a remastered version because of the remakes? Or are they just specifically saying that you don't need to play 1 and 2? I guess I'd have to scroll up further here.
You've walked into the wrong forest, friend.
Yeah, the Kiwami series not the Like a Dragon series.
Oh, why'd it have to be a clear day?
So,
I got fists of justice, and nothing's gonna stop them.
so I guess the idea is to play Kwame, Kwame 2, then 3, 4, and 5 remastered, or wait to see if they make a Kwame 3. So yeah, there's
Can I go with you?
there's definitely more research I'd have to do before I thought about playing the Yakuza series. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Academia School Simulator, which just looks like Prison Simulator, basically, which a certain core, schools and prisons share quite a lot of similarities. It's rated very positively. It's $13.99, bunch of languages. I don't want to play any kind of simulator game though. Every time I get some momentum here with this deck, I lose. Which, whatever. One more loss and then we'll be done with the arena run. Here we have Hidden Lands Spot the Differences, which we're starting to see more of these split screen spot the differences with 3D model games. Which, that's fine. It's free, English only. So, is this a student project? I feel like this is going to be very short, but I'll put it on the follow list since it's free. I should just put it on the wish list. But I'll leave it here. There's no in-app purchases or anything. And so far I have yet to see a game on Steam that has in-app advertising, which thank goodness for that. That could be another way certainly to work your way to the bottom of the pile as far as the game stores, to start getting Google ads and AdSense ads on popping up in the middle of your PC game. Moving on, Gematsu has Sword of the Necromancer launch trailer, which seems like is Sword of the Necromancer from the same creator as Crypt of the Necromancer? Because if it is, that might interest me quite a bit. So if you could run around basically playing a game like Crypt of the Necromancer without having to move on the beat and have rhythm. Although at a certain point, a game like that is just a standard dungeon crawler. Let's see. I'm not sure. Yeah, if anything, this might just be kind of name confusion. Perhaps unintentional, but probably not unintentional. With Crypt of the Necrodancer. And it is a fairly generic name to say Sword of the Necromancer. Not that necromancers are known for having swords. I would assume necromancers have more staffs or wands, if anything. Here we have a game called Disjunction, which I think we had seen this stealth game talked about before. Kind of a higher action stealth game where you're running around killing people in kind of a cyberpunk world. $14.39, bunch of languages. That's a little too expensive, even for an expensive game. It's like $1 over, but we'll give it a follow. So I guess we are, at least for this Friday, running into more games that actually deserve to at least be followed.
I'm done sticking my... I told you to leave!
Wanna know how you're gonna die?
Let's see. Tech Raptor has a review for the medium. We may have already seen this review though. Wasn't it not that good? 7.5. It's not a terrible review, but not a great review. Here we have a game on Steam called Olija, which looks like it's a platforming game. It kind of has some nice art here, but not quite so nice art here. Yeah, I don't know if there's enough game here. It interests me. $14.99, bunch of languages. I guess it goes on the follow list, but I'm not super enthusiastic based on those screenshots. And these trailer and these videos don't really mean anything at all to me. Some of the zombie.
Is that a human? I'm done sticking my head in the clouds.
Let's see.
Can I interest you in reasonably priced games?
I told you to
Kill
leave.
that.
Can I haunt you too?
Hit that.
I saw that coming.
And then hit that. Here we have a Gnome article. Prison Tycoon under new management announced for console and PC. I believe the Prison Tycoon series was handed over to a different company. It says Ziggurat Interactive or Abbey Light Studios. Yeah, developed by Abbey Light Studios and due out 2021. So a different studio will be making that game, so it'll be interesting to see if they can take Prison Tycoon and actually do something new and interesting with it. Prison Tycoon as a game was once again one of those series that really only succeeded because YouTubers and streamers were intentionally focusing on that and playing it and covering it. So we still need a Shadowcraft victory after that arena run. Let's see, let's try these Shadowcrafts decks. Here Tech Raptor has a review for that game, Olija. They give a 6.0. That's kind of what I thought. It might not be long and might not have the most interesting combat, but the story and style of the game makes it worth playing. Pros, beautiful animation, gameplay and cutscenes, easy to learn, hard to master combat, dripping with character, style and atmosphere. The music fits the tone perfectly. Cons, it's buggy towards the end, it's very short, and the combat could have been deeper. So is there an article link here to the Steam page even? No. So inevitably I have to then web search it to get back to Steam to then remove it from the follow list. Well, yeah, I'm gonna remove it from the follow list. Like, even though it has positive reviews right now, I just don't see anything there. And I'm willing to give Tech Raptor my faith in their review. Which maybe that's a mistake, but we will see. Gamatsu has an article here. Wizardry Gaiden 5 Ordeals is coming to Steam in the first half of 2021. Apparently all you've got right now is a logo. It's going to be based off the iOS version of Wizardry Gaiden Prisoners of Battlers, released in 2017, with various aspects enhanced. So it's going to be a cell phone port. Maybe it'll be a good cell phone port, but maybe not. Here we have a game called Pathfinder 08 on Steam, which looks like it's a dungeon crawling Metroidvania game with 8-bit graphics. I'm not sure I'm willing to go down that journey. $4.99 English, Portuguese, Brazil. Man, I must be fairly in a good mood because I definitely have a lot of urge today to be lenient and put a game like this on the fall list when I should just be more critical and saying no to it. The other thing I would say is, honestly, if you just broke down all of the room layouts of Super Metroid, you probably can just copy and paste and retexture all of the room layouts where bricks would be and make a whole new game using that same layout, and people wouldn't even recognize it because almost all Metroidvanias are rooms with the same kind of ceilings, walls, floors, doors on the left, doors on the right. It's nobody's really added any new ideas around that. I honestly don't know if there are very many new ideas you can add around that.
Can I go with you?
This is what love looks like.
And then put that on the field.
Stop singing until there's world peace.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Atom, which is a low effort experiment, really. They're calling it a simple hydrogen atom simulator. I don't even know why you think this is hydrogen. Like, how could that be hydrogen? Like, it seems to have different shapes and it seems to have different numbers of particles around it. So, yeah. 69 cents, English, Chinese. It's clearly just a low effort game.
Sing another note.
Well, I just got wrecked.
Is that a human? I'm done sticking my head in. I told you to leave.
'Tis natural for leaves to fall.
Let's see, Gamatsu has the Famitsu sales for this week. Let's see, we got a whole 10 Nintendo Switch games, none of which are new, topping the charts. I guess these are the physical sales,
Carry on.
not the digital sales. And then seemingly the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4 is still getting some increasing sales. And the Xbox is getting less and less sales. Apparently the Xbox One is completely gone at this point. It's just Series X and Series S. Also, the new 3DS is missing in this sales chart also. That. Do we want to do this? Or do we want to do this? Yeah. I think Japan's probably fairly deep into a second lockdown at this point, or third or fourth. So it's not surprising to see sales not changing much or not being very high. Also, it's not like we're going to get any new hardware announced anytime soon, and new software is going to be reluctantly released. One of the things that went by completely unnoticed by me is that the that game, The Mystic, no, it's not called The Mystic, it's called forget the name of, I'm forgetting the word. The psychic lady who was in two different worlds at the same time, and it was shown separately. That game that came out just a couple days ago, that is the first Xbox Series exclusive to come out, and there's basically zero fanfare around it, and it wasn't even a well-received product. So Microsoft exclusives are starting off 2021 poorly. I don't think there's going to be any PlayStation 5 exclusives that come out anytime recently that will be received well either.
There's hope in them frontier lands. This is our home, right?
Moving on, we have a Gematsu article here. Oceanhorn 2 Knights of the Lost Realm is coming to the PlayStation 5,
This is our
Xbox
home,
Series, PC, and more. Which, let's see if we can get a general idea of what kind of game this is. Looks like it's visually polished
right?
well enough
This is our home.
as some kind of adventure game. Yeah. Kind of looks like a Zelda Breath of the Wild clone. Which notably, it's not coming to
Well, ain't that
the
this
Switch.
Is our home, right?
At least it hasn't been announced to the Switch yet. And figure out what my air conditioner is doing. It's heating, but I definitely don't think it should be heating. No, apparently it does think it's too cold in my house. I'll let it do its thing, but cooking me. I still have an active continuing problem with the heat in the rooms with computers in them being nearly 10 degrees hotter than rooms without computers in them. I don't know if that is because of the computers so much or if it's just because of the location.
Mother, father, come on. Kono kenka, ore ni makase na.
Let's try a different deck here and see if we can win this way. Let's see. Gematsu has an article here. Space Base Startopia launches March 26th for PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, PC. Later 2021 for the Switch. Do we have a trailer to see what kind of game this is? It almost feels like it would be a Space Channel 5 game, but I guess instead it is just a simulation resource management game. Yeah, this definitely feels more like something you would want to play on a cell phone than on a console. And something that also kind of feels fairly limited in the sense that you can't probably expand. It doesn't look like at least you can expand the starbase's size, so you'd have only a few square feet to place things, and then maybe they'll give you a bigger space base. But unlike Tiny Tower or something, I don't think you can just constantly increase it. See what this does. Here, Gematsu has Memories Off Historia, Volume 1 and 2 debut trailers. These look like visual novel games, which I guess is the combination of Memories Off, Memory Off Second, Omaide ni Kawaru Kimi, Memories Off, and Memories Off Sorikara. And then Memories Off 5, Togorita Film, Memories Off 6, T-Wave, and Memories Off Yubikiri no Kyoku. So that is much more of a combination of games. So I guess each one of these is probably a female interest for each different game. Let's see. That's an interesting idea. We are probably way past the point at which it would make more sense to bundle up the long-running visual novels. This also might be a case where these might be visual novels where there's not that many different options per game. There might just be one girl of interest in some games, one or two to pick from. Right. Do this. And that.
Show me your death.
In the turn. See what it was rated at 0B, 0C, so they're not adult only rated visual novels.
Only one way to find out. This calls for a taste
Avoid. It beckons me.
See, the thing certainly around the idea, if it became the new fad to bundle visual novels, though, is that you would still, on Steam in particular, have a lot of really, really bad visual novels that have had lots of sequels that still aren't really worth it. Whereas the great visual novels, things like Steins Gate, for instance, or Clannad, probably could bundle, but if they do bundle, they're not going to bundle cheaply. Instead, demanding like $100 to $150 for a bundle, which at that price point you can have a digital bundle on Steam where each individual game still can be individually purchased. And certainly there isn't a big motivating factor to have bundles when you're not selling hardware discs.
Go on, eat up.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam here called Zeepkist, which looks like it's a cell phone port of a racer game, maybe one where you make your own tracks. $11.99 English and Dutch. I don't think there's anything here of any interest. Next we have a game called Car Game, which just by the title alone we can immediately dismiss as a low effort asset flip game. $1.39 English full audio. Well, I have to actually look at it to determine it's an asset flip game, but once I did determine that enough to my mind.
The corrupted soil style will not tolerate evil. I've seen them.
Okay. Last word evolve.
Let me show you
Okay,
the
we've
way.
got a 4-4.
Guilty.
Can we?
I demand a rematch.
Can we kill this?
Finish the job. Yeah. Nani?
See, next we have a game on Steam called Miska's Cave, which looks like it's a bullet hell hack and slash jumping game with kind of a bullet time effect. There might be something here, but I'm not sure I'd be able to play it. And this really is going to come down to reviews, because if it plays well, that's where the reviews would tell me if it plays well. There is also a possibility that this is the entire game and it just goes on forever. It's free. Is it a student project? It's English only. For a free game, it very likely then is just this one screen. But I'll put it on the follow list. Okay. We're doomed regardless.
It's time to conquer a new domain.
Next we have International Basketball Manager, which is just a basketball management simulator game. It's mixed reviewed for $9.99 English and Spanish. So far, no network trouble. Once again, let's try Dragoncraft, since we need one victory there, too. I did manage, after playing on Wednesday, to get like one quick disconnect free victory, where I imagine just the other player conceded, but we are kind of batting 0% otherwise, which means either I commit to several more hours of playing the game off screen after each stream, which I'm not willing to do, or I just don't get the daily quest done, and then I don't get as many rewards and I don't get as much gold, which at a certain level that is diminishing returns for a game when you're trying to stay free to play. And I guess I'll just have to live with that, because yeah, I don't see myself ever buying the battle pass for these games, or ever trying to own like every single skin and every single card, unless I just somehow get into a kind of rut where the second dinner Marvel card game just never comes to PC, and there's just not really any other game worth playing. Shadowverse still is one of the most popular collectible card games, digital collectible card games in Japan, so it still has some relevancy until something else replaces it. And I don't want to go back to Hearthstone, and I don't want to play Magic the Gathering for sure. So it would be, at the moment, if I needed to find a new collectible card game, I would just randomly try some other game. Or maybe I would decide to not even bother playing a collectible card game. There might be an argument straight up just to try and do video game news only. And I don't know how that would really work, but like there's probably a way to do it. And still make it entertaining. Next we have Handball Manager 2021.
I travel in search of the unknown.
One of the things would be, like, if you're gonna do video game news, and this is not how I want to do it, because I don't want to get a face cam and use a face cam, but I would say get a face cam and get at least one other person that is in front of a camera also, so you can do at least a 2-camera shot, have one person read their news story and then have the next person read their news story, so you can drink water, take a breath, and just plan on what you're going to say. Also, having 2 people opens up the realm of discussion and interaction if you run out of news. So yeah, if you basically, I'm saying, just emulate what you see on the likes of TV news reporting.
Truth and taboo are equal in my eyes.
And that would be the way to do it.
With your lifeblood.
Like you need at least 2 people. Anyways, moving on, we have Handball Manager 2021. Pretty much any game with manager in the name is a no-go. This is $31.49, which is a huge ripoff, English and German only. I don't think more niche games like Handball deserve higher priced games. Okay.
Enemy identified.
Hit that.
You feel that too.
Didn't do that.
Dare to disturb my domain? My empress. Sleep with
One.
the fishes. Sleep with the fishes.
2.
The dragon empress with the fishes.
3.
There's further
Time to
study.
head home.
And
Sleep with
4.
the fishes. How did I miss that?
Next, we have a game on Steam called Flesh-Eating Geriatric Internet Predator, which this is some kind of crazy grindhouse full motion video game, which normally I would just write this off as a joke game, but then if you're going to invoke the mentality of grindhouse, there might be something here. It's $2.54, English full audio. I'll put it on the follow list. The difference here compared to other developers is the fact that other developers that have made joke full motion video games were just doing internet memes that didn't interest me, so there was a personal disinterest there, and it definitely didn't feel like there was a real thought process going on behind it and a real game there. It felt like they were just being trollish to be trollish. Let's see. This developer has made another game called Fiendish Thieves, that's a full motion video, and a game called Wrath of the Violent Vicar interactive film. Let's see, the only one that's been reviewed is, there are 2 reviews here for this game, which was $3.99. One's positive, one's negative. So this does feel like it is people trying to be like Trauma, as it were, doing their own full motion video stuff. See, that one was October 20th, 2020, so they've released a game in October, December, and now January. So they're also churning out games, which at a certain point that is going to be closer in my book to just flooding Steam with garbage games. It's not incredibly expensive, but it is somewhat expensive to make full motion video games, but it's probably not much more different than making a slightly animated video game. Alright, let's see what cards. That. That's it? Okay. So give me some Eternal cards. And then we'll just decide what we want without even really knowing. That works. Let's see. Next we have on Steam called Chillax VR. I'll just have to wait for reviews on that other game if they ever happen, or I'll just wait 6 months and once it doesn't have any reviews, remove it. This clearly is just Asset Flips VR, trying to sell it as kind of a relaxing experience. $2.99 for VR is incredibly cheap. English full audio. Yeah, that's too cheap. Next we have a game called Sarawak, which is some kind of text-based, I guess, murder mystery story. Visually, for a text-based game, it actually looks particularly good. But do I want to play a text-based game for $8.99 in particular? For that price, I would pretty much demand full audio. I'm gonna have to skip this, but I do have to applaud that it's nicely animated for a text-based game. But you still have to judge it as a text-based game in a world of interactive video games. Here we have Motor Strike Racing Rampage, which looks like a racing game. I have a little bit of polish on it, but I don't think there's enough here different to interest me. Early access, $11.89. Allegedly full audio in every language it supports. Let's see. Gnome has Demon Slayer, Kimitsu no Yaiba, Hino Kami Kaputan. News is set for February 8th for the February 8th due issue of Weekly Shonen Jump. So a Demon Slayer console game is going to get some news. Let's see. If we put an amulet on the field, then we can play this later. It's probably not gonna go anywhere, but Demon Slayer was very popular, so if it had been a much longer running, much more popular series, it might be up there among the ranks of like a Dragon Ball Z game, but I feel like it's probably gonna at best be somewhere between the One Punch Man game or any of the other anime spin-off games that they have a tendency to not put a lot of effort into. So you turn an enemy follower. We can do that much. Yeah. Demon Slayer might just be the new Naruto style game. Speaking of new styles of game, apparently there's an Uno bundle, Ultimate Edition, available for Xbox One and Series X and S. This includes Uno, Uno Flip, and Uno Phoenix Quest, plus themed cards from Just Dance, Rayman, and more, which I guess those themed cards are probably just for Uno, but there really, I guess, wouldn't be any reason why the themed cards couldn't work with these other games. The real question, though, is why is there not a free upgrade for people who own Uno on Uplay and Steam to be able to play Uno Phoenix Quest or Uno Flip? And why is Uno so expensive still on Steam? Alright, we have more evolution points. So we can do 2 damage to that. And then just evolve that up.
Where the wind blows, a path open. Haven storm.
Time to retreat.
Wind, grant them courage.
Yeah, I don't even think there is a Uno Flip available on Steam. We can check that here. Here we have a game called Tri Block, which is clearly just a 3-block Tetris type game where you're matching the pictures, which is a little too complicated and visually a mess. 99 cents, English and Russian. Yeah. Evolve a follower. Deal 2 damage to an enemy leader. Reanimate 5. Burial right.
Happy Undeath Day!
Foul forces of darkness, bow before my tempest.
Want to play?
When life gets bored, frolic with the spirits.
Oh man, this guy can't be defeated. It's that guy.
Wind, grant them courage.
Who will be my victim today?
Let's see.
Blow on, dear wind.
I'm here, just like I said in my tip-off.
Yeah. If we look over here, Uno at the moment is $9.99 on Steam.
I'm the living one.
Uno Flip as a theme, as DLC for Uno, is $4.99. The Rayman theme cards are $2.99, and the Just Dance theme cards are $2.99. So they're asking here basically for $20. And this is mixed results on the reviews anyways. And I wonder if that is simply because people don't like paying so much. Let's see. You can only play 10 times per week if they don't have it. Yeah, Ubisoft is just cheap. And they've found a way to make what should be an incredibly fun game that people should be playing all the time into something that has caused a lack of interest by being so greedy.
You're done for.
Hold up your swords with pride. I'm here, just like I said in my tip-off note.
Let's see. Next, we have an article on Gamatsu called Gunbarachi, coming to PC on February 12th. Which, is this a shoot 'em up game? Yep, it's a shoot 'em up game. That would make sense. One of the ones where you're playing as a witch riding a broom, it seems. Reanimate 7. Or do we do something different? Transform into a giant skull. Let's see what this does.
What brings I shall give birth to a new world.
Interesting.
Thus the world begins. Please steal responsibly.
Let's see, next we have a game called Annual Intruders, which just looks like a low effort asset flip game. Yeah, it doesn't look like much. $1.99, English only. Thought it might be something like The Purge, because I guess that would be Annual Intruders.
Does this outfit make me look too
This. And
Laces,
do
everyone.
this.
Work starts at
I'm
sunset.
coming for you.
Banish.
Detestable.
time to retreat?
Let's see. Gamatsu has the side-scrolling action game Dotori coming to the Switch in February. Dotori. Dotori? How would you pronounce that? Dotori.
On your guard.
See if we can see what the gameplay is. It's a platformer.
It
Kind
won't
of
be long now.
a frustration platformer where you're playing as
Power of a samurai.
seemingly mice or
On your guard.
something. Visually, the polish is slightly more than normal. It half feels like a Mickey Mouse game,
I'll be on my way, master.
or what you would expect would have been skinned as a Mickey Mouse game in the old days. Let's see. Could deal 5.
Does this outfit make me look too old?
Laces, everyone. Work starts at sunset. So much work to do.
I lowballed you.
I think we're making slow progress here. I don't know if that's gonna actually end in a victory.
With me.
See, next we have Farm Frenzy Refreshed, which is clearly just a cell phone game for kids. Resource management game, probably. They're calling it a farming sim. $7.19. English, German, and Russian. I don't even know what happened there, but somehow I lost. We're gonna end up just bouncing between Dragoncraft and Shadowcraft until we get a victory. Here we have a game called Arcade Fishing 3D, which is clearly a pachinko game just turned into a PC game, very possibly a cell phone game first and foremost. Above that, you can definitely see that it's designed for like tapping on the screen. English is not supported, Chinese only. It's funny to have such an obvious gambling game come out and be a Chinese only game, considering how the Chinese government was really upset with all the obvious gambling games. Although I guess that is to say that there was a lot of them in existence. Yeah, I think it is very fair to say that it's not like the Chinese government was making up claims when they said they weren't going to improve gambling games very often, and that basically implying there were too many already, and because obviously there were. But most of those types of games have not bothered to try to come to Steam so far, and I would hate to see this become a new trend. Although, frankly, if I start to see a lot of gambling games, they're going to be so obvious that I can just ignore them and not even mention them. Let's see. Necromancer has the King of Fighters 15 Beanie Maru Nikaido trailer and screenshots. So, a new fighter character trailer for King of Fighters. Fighting games make a lot of those. Try to build up the hype as much as possible. I don't know if that really works though. You don't really see that much of that kind of an advertisement for things like Mortal Kombat. There definitely were some trailers for some characters, but then there were also characters that were definitely not given their own separate trailers.
Breach of contract. Get back here.
See, OpenCritic has the February PlayStation Plus titles that have been announced. And this page does not want to scroll down. What happened there?
Might make a good son-in-law.
Got me feeling hungry.
There is something about this page that is not letting me scroll down at all. I've turned off the ad blocker and that's not letting me scroll down. Turning it back on, it's not letting it scroll down. Highlighting the text is not letting me scroll down, so reloading into page isn't fixing it. So I guess we'll just have to skip that article.
People are the brightest stars in the sky.
Let's go hit this.
Be gone.
I shine, that mortals may know the way. Mortals are adorable.
Get back here. Darn it all.
Go. The National Video Game Museum has partnered with Operation Blitz to give free tickets to the National Video Game Museum for families involved in the program. Operation Blitz is something. I think, let's just click on the link. That would be the easiest way to see that, wouldn't it? Let's let's see. Following a child's medical procedure in order to provide support, bring joy, and celebrate the road to recovery. So it's giving like hotels. Let's see. They provide one night stays at local Dallas-Fort Worth hotels to celebrate a child's medical discharge, which is not really offering a lot, frankly. But I could also see the reason why the National Video Game Museum would partner with them, because they are in the Dallas area, Dallas-Fort Worth area. They're actually north of Dallas, so but yeah, so that they're partnering with a small charity. The National Video Game Museum in particular probably doesn't have a lot of room to be giving away free tickets, because they probably can only have so many people in the building at a certain time. The other point here, though, is logically this doesn't make the most amount of sense, because a child is discharged and then you're given one night stay in a hotel, and then you're going to take that one night stay of the hotel to go to a museum, a video game museum, and then you've got to get back on a plane or get in a car and drive back to wherever you live. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Also, I'm not even sure if they are guaranteeing to even give a hotel that is really close to the National Video Game Museum, because that's where it would make more sense. Is like if a child is discharged and they're going to a hospital deep in the south part of Dallas, well, driving from the south part of Dallas to where the video game museum is north of Dallas could be a 2, 3, 4 hour drive depending on traffic. So like Dallas is a very big metropolis. Is that the right word? Megapolis? I think metropolis is the right word. So that might make a little bit of sense. The Operation Blitz, though, does not really work that way, because as I'm looking here, the patient has to have been getting treatment for 30 days or more. So it's a fairly limited number of people. So basically, kids that are getting treatment for cancer and severe things like cancer, and the family must reside 80 minutes, 60 miles away or further, and they have to be referred by a partnering surgeon or healthcare worker, and it's for ages 3 and 18. So there's quite the limitation there. I wouldn't be surprised if news came out that Operation Blitz treats less than 5 or 10 people a year under those requirements. Anyways, moving on. OpenCritic has an article here. The Rocket League's next update drops next week. This page does let me scroll down, so I don't know why the other one didn't. Like, that must have just been a bug.
This is my home.
Here we have ReZero starting a life in another world, the Prophecy of the Throne. This is another anime that was fairly popular a couple seasons ago, and probably still popular enough. This is the character with Rim and Ray, which they're fairly well seen. I've seen a lot of them around the internet. It's rated very positively. It's a visual novel. It's $53.99 with English full audio and Japanese full audio, but I wouldn't be surprised if the English full audio isn't even that good. Now, normally at that price I'd say no way, but I've got to put this on the follow list, because what we might find out here is that this is potentially a really, really great visual novel, and it just happens to be a spin-off of an anime, where normally visual novels based on spin-offs are not that good. It also might have more adventure gameplay mechanics than just visual novel elements. So that might be a bit of a selling point also. I've got to do something if I'm going to win here.
Red burns, but blue is hot.
Time to tidy things up.
It looks like the visual novel elements are also
Was it too hot for
fairly
me to
well
handle?
animated.
You're a solid fighter.
I'm not sure there really is much adventure gameplay in this. They certainly aren't highlighting the adventure gameplay. And I haven't watched ReZero or read the manga or anything like that, so I probably would be fairly lost in the story. So it would definitely be a hard sell personally for me to play ReZero, and it's going to be even more difficult to sell for people who for people who don't even like anime. Although, in all fairness, you're probably not going to play a visual novel if you don't like anime. This next story, I think, proves that just because it's a Gamma Sutra article doesn't mean it's actually video game news. And at this point, Discord really has stopped being related to video games at all. It's been a long time coming. Discord trying to expand, trying to sell their own video games, and then failing at that. It was only ever a tool to talk with people while playing video games. But I just don't feel like there's any more reason to report on news after today on Discord unless something actually video game related happens. But they've banned r/Wall Street Bets for hate speech. Our Reddit also banned them for hate speech at some point, which both of them to me seems to be mostly just ridiculous reasons to try to ban people. And inherently this is the problem with Twitter banning people in vast troves and YouTube banning people in vast troves. It's one thing to say Trump was banned because of a speech he said that wasn't on Twitter. Even at that point, I think that was pretty weak. And very well, it may have been a case that Trump was actually banned from Twitter for something he actually did tweet. But like when Instagram is banning the Trump account, I'd like to see the reason for that banning. But certainly once these big corporations and even medium small corporations got the okay to start applying their own personal brand of censorship and McCarthyism, it's just going to expand more and more. Yeah, banning an entire Discord because of what a small minority at most of the members would have said is ridiculous. And that's the same thing with Parler, and it's the same thing with even Vote or Reddit. It's like it's that same stupid argument that teachers, bad teachers often make, where if there's one mentally immature and perhaps emotionally disturbed child in the classroom and he's making a disruption, she's going to give homework and punish the entire class, which yeah, that wasn't fair in that scenario, and it wouldn't be fair, and it's not fair now. The update here is that it's public again. But yeah, there are definitely a lot of people who are realizing a new state of hypocrisy when they start to see how the Wall Street bet scenarios being dealt with by corporations trying to help big trading firms or help themselves instead of staying neutral. Like the death of neutrality was certainly the death of fairness on the internet. Now, net neutrality is part of that, but just neutrality in general. And some of that is our own fault. When everybody kept buying from Amazon, we put all the small online stores out of business and limited our own options. Moving on, though, let's focus on video games. Here we have a game called Golden Force. It's now available for the Xbox One and Series. Wanted to see what this game was. 22 stages, 5 generals. Sounds like it's probably a pretty simplistic game. And if this is the only screenshot it's got, it's obviously not got anything interesting to show. Let's try and hurry up. Here we have a game on Steam called Fear and Fury, which seems to be a low effort hack and slash fighting game with turn-based combat and visual novel style dialogue. It's coming soon, English for audio. That is definitely not something that needs to be on the fall list. Insomniac Games is hiring a content artist for Burbank, California, if that interests you. Here, somebody has figured out a way to hack a Switch to play Resident Evil 4, which, okay, that's somewhat believable. Like, you could probably hack a Nintendo Switch to run a Wii or GameCube emulator and at least get that logo going. That's no guarantee that it actually runs well or plays well. Let's see what we want to do here. Ward. And this.
It won't be long now.
Let's keep on playing. We haven't had any real new news as far as any of the emulators lately. I guess they're just working behind the scenes towards their next versions, or yeah, and so they've mostly been silent for the past month or two. I did see a thing about running a Minecraft server using a Raspberry Pi 4, and according to the claims of the YouTube video I saw, running it off your own Raspberry Pi 4 was as good, if not better, than some of the paid Minecraft server sites, and it definitely was better than the free ones, which, yeah, I don't know if that's actually true, but it does basically make a terrible statement on the quality of product you would be getting if you rented out a Minecraft server from a website. But I wouldn't be surprised for a second if that is very true, and it is very slow. And certainly it would be a lot easier to run your own server on a Raspberry Pi and have 5 to 20 kids connecting directly in the same network to it and having a LAN party than renting one out. Yeah, we are not getting anywhere fast. You know what? Let's see what our missions are. Let's reevaluate. Unranked is an option. And Forestcraft is an option. Alright, so we've now rolled over to the daily bonus. Last loading, we have a game here called Adventure War Battlefield, which is such a generic name. It's obviously not interesting. It's also just an asset flip game, although it is maybe a little bit more zoomed in than most pixely asset flip games. It's still nothing. Free to play, English only. So I don't even know how they think they're going to make any money off of that. G4 has a premiere that on their YouTube channel that's going to come out, I think either today or maybe over the weekend, where they're going to try and actually start giving out some information as far as what they actually plan on doing, what they plan on bringing back. And it was on the 27th where they said what shows should we bring back. So they're trying to get more engagement. Even the games that were the shows that were being announced, as far as besides Attack of the Show and X-Play, are not shows I even recognize. And if G4 is going to succeed, them bringing back a bunch of old shows can be the gimmick for the first season. Sure, but I think you're going to kind of quickly start to see those shows get canceled if they don't do really well, and get replaced with new ideas that may be video game related or may not at all. There is certainly a question about just how much video game content does a normal person even want to see these days. With one thing about G4 shows compared to a YouTube channel and Twitch streamers and things like that is Twitch streamers are personalities, and they're selling their product based on those people. So where X-Play was mostly still about the games, even though they had fun and had personality in the hosts, and a lot of Attack of the Show was personalities, certainly, but they were still able to kind of jump between different characters and not get pigeonholed into one specific group of people. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Chibi Horror The School, which looks like it's just a asset flip horror game. 99 cents, English only. There's nothing really here I would call chibi. It just looks like pixely graphics. Okay, what can we do here? We can do this. We can do this. Then we are stuck with doing that. And we can hit there. And we can hit there. Tech Raptor has an article here. Harry Potter meets Harvest Moon in Witchery Academy. Which, okay. There's the trailer. This is coming out, so it's not out yet. Let's kind of see if we can see how this goes. This definitely feels like a kid's game. Kid-focused game. Which, in all fairness, that might work. Although I don't know if I was playing a Harry Potter game, if I'd really want to be doing a lot of Harvest Moon stuff on top of that. It seems a little weird. Apparently, allegedly, that they deny it, that they're working on like a Harry Potter remake, reboot.
Why are you here?
Which, at a certain level, I guess that's what you kind of have to do. Because
You're done for.
the Harry Potter series of movies was the only real thing that succeeded from the Harry Potter WB productions. Like the books weren't from Warner Brothers, and they were certainly successful. And certainly you could remake the Harry Potter books in an animated form or something and be closer to the characters and the way the characters look. Certainly also you could get rid of some problematic characters and just some old looking characters now. Like the character, the actor who played Harry Potter now could easily play one of the parents with just a little bit of digital aging. So that might be what the series is too. It might be moving forward. And it wouldn't really hurt, I think, if they did jump the Harry Potter series to the next generation and do like Harry Potter the New Class. But yeah, the Mythic Beasts and Where to Find Them series is it's probably not going as well as they would like it to go. And it's just too dark and too mature. Alright, well, hate to do this, but I think this is the right move. Nope, that was not the right move. Tech Raptor has an article here. A new study reveals board games can help Alzheimer's patients. I think a lot of things can help Alzheimer's patients, and at a certain point, treating Alzheimer's patients or people with dementia in general like normal human beings is probably just the right move, and you don't need to fund a whole study to come out and say that. There is also the ever-growing problem of studies just not being repeatable or being bad studies or experiments being bad experiments in the first place. Science is good. I'm not saying anything like that, but the purity of science is, I think, degrading as more and more people are forced to either get funding and publish things to justify their jobs or to get funding. That pure scientific interest is taking a back door to more capitalistic desires or self-interested desires, which is really just a great example that there should be more grants out there from governments to do research, and the grants should be from unbiased to do unbiased studies for things we really need to study. A great example of that is a grant to find a permanent cure for diabetes would be completely great. But they don't do that. Instead, they just want to continue to sell insulin to people at ever-increasing prices because you're literally needed to live for the rest of your life. And there's plenty of other drugs like that out there. We need to be careful not to forget that as drug companies are profiting by making vaccines for the current pandemic, that they still are soulless, money-grubbing corporations, and they're not looking probably for cures at all. Or they might find the cure, and they might even actually in this case be looking for a cure, but they're going to charge an arm and a leg for that cure. Here we have a game called Dungeon and Cocks, which I can only assume is just a low effort troll game. I don't even see any roosters. This looks like a duck. Yep. So, this looks like nothing. $3.59, English, Russian, Spanish, and Chinese. Which that's an odd combination to have Spain Spanish in the mix between English and Russian and Chinese.
Me whiskers.
Let's see. We have another. One sec. Let's play that too. We have another one of these hidden games. This one is 100 Hidden Mice, which is just flooding Steam with these hidden games. Let's see, English only, 89 cents. Price is not terrible. It's just there's too many of them. Let's see. I think at this point I've probably been mean enough to Twitch support, and I think I can just mute them on Twitter, so we can just stop reporting on every time that Twitch support says Twitch is down. The message is fairly clear that they go down way more than YouTube, and they have problems that they talk about way more than YouTube, but like Twitch is still going to be the secondary competitor to YouTube until we can find something better.
You're done for.
And that also saves me a little bit of time and a little bit of guaranteed negative stories. And I'll probably do that the same for
I can't wait to spread some goodwill.
some other, like the Epic Games Store also.
Ow! Oh, come on!
There is also a possibility that I have just been accidentally missing some reports for like YouTube being down or other services, Steam being down. Okay.
I don't want your pranks. You're not too bad yourself.
And I guess evolve here.
Won't be long now.
Gamma Sutra has an article here. Pocket Worlds raises $7 million to double down on social mobile games. Okay, don't know who Pocket Worlds is. This is a bad title, certainly, to get reported on. It's a fairly long title, too. Activision Blizzard's lawyers have dismissed diversity hiring proposals as, quote, unworkable. So the lawyers have pushed back against a shareholder proposal asking them to implement a Rooney Rule in a bid to foster more diversity, and calling the proposal the proposal, quote, unworkable. What is a Rooney Rule? That's a new one to me. Is this like a Mick Rooney? That sounds like a name I would have heard. The diverse candidate search proposal submitted would require Activision to interview a more diverse range of candidates, including women and people of color, for all open positions. Although it wouldn't dictate who the company could hire, it would ensure people from these underrepresented backgrounds are at least added to the initial pool of potential hires. That hardly seems like that's unworkable.
Now, if you would please look to your right.
There is, I suppose, also something to say there is that either at that point you're keeping the position open so you can interview minorities to satisfy that rule, so you're not filling the position as fast as possible, or you are asking the race of people before you even bring them in the interview or there's also an implication here that they may already be asking the race of people who are coming in to interview and actively choosing to not interview or ask minorities to come in for an interview. And if that's the case, well then that's just blatant racism and bigotry.
Do come again.
Let's play.
Okay.
Shifting into Moonride. Ready, go!
It wouldn't be too hard to say, okay, we've got one woman that we've interviewed, or we've got one person of color we've interviewed, we can now hire her. I did hear that if you wanted to get a job, you should apply, I think in like the second week of the job listing, or the second week of their interviewing, or at least that was the strategy if you wanted to hire the best person, is that the first you pass on the first third of people regardless of how good they are, then you hire the next best person that is as good or better than the first third of people that have applied, or something like that. And this was just like based in statistics, but also sounds a lot like being based on some voodoo type idea.
May the gems guide you.
The exact quote here is that the policy would amount to an unworkable encroachment at the company's ability to run its business and compete for talent in a highly competitive, fast-moving market. So clearly, somebody at Activision told their lawyers to say this. They would argue the proposal would violate the SEC guidance by micromanaging Activision's hiring process, leaving no room for the company's management or board of directors to exercise discretion on how the new hire decisions are structured. See, really what this goes to show you is just the total BS that it is to be a shareholder in the first place. Like, you're not respected, even if you do have a major minority share. They don't want to listen to you. It's the board, it's the rich people at the board's level that still want all the power and none of the responsibility. And so it is completely normal for a shareholder proposal to be made and then immediately dismissed by the board because on simple things like it just not being their idea. Here, the publisher is claiming the attorney statements have been mischaracterized by bias and the hiring practice are rooted in ensuring diversity for all rules. If that was true, then why did there need to be a proposal? This really doesn't feel like a scenario where it's a bunch of SJWs that own stock in Blizzard and they're demanding something unreasonable. This is the bare minimum. Really, you could not ask for much less other than to say, please interview some minority people. And worst case scenario in this, if they were to implement that rule and they were going to just use it poorly, they would just have a collection of unqualified minorities that they had asked to come in and interview over and over again, and they with no intention of ever hiring. That's like the worst case scenario you could go with. Of course, you might get sued by that group of minorities if they've interviewed you 5, 6, 7 times and not hired you. But
I've been spotted.
it's probably, even in that case, it's probably not a lawsuit that would actually win easily.
Looks like my job here is done.
And I suppose if you do have a hiring agency, you could potentially get the race or the gender of people before you interview them. Or you could just get it from the applications, I guess. And I don't think there's
Shifting into
any
movement.
rules, and
Ready?
I think this is being done in Canada. I don't think there's, well, I don't think there's any rules in the US or Canada that says you can't be pro a minority. If yeah, I don't think there's anything like that. So yeah, Activision Blizzard sounds like they suck, and that is definitely in part the reason why I don't bother playing Hearthstone anymore. And I am certainly a little unhappy with the idea that I may never play StarCraft and I may never play Diablo, because I don't want to have to get
Time for me to prove myself.
get out of the Steam storefront marketplace to play those kinds of games, just to review them. Plus, frankly, I probably won't have that much new to say if I were to play Diablo or StarCraft. It would just be me being nostalgic and playing them again. Moving on, Epic Game Store's free games are going to continue in 2021, which it better, frankly, because that's the only reason on a weekly basis I even go to the Epic Game Store is to get those free games. And I have no intention of even playing those games on the Epic Game Store ever. I'm just building up a backup in case Steam went out of business, which is highly unlikely. But yeah, I imagine... I haven't heard anybody singing the praises of the Epic Game Store. A lot of that is definitely based on the fact that they've completely failed to add any real content of any sort. So there's no like new features or improvements that happened in 2020 at the Epic Game Store. Nothing really worth mentioning, at least. Gnome has R-Type Final 2 launching April 30th in the West, which I kind of would like to see some gameplay of this to figure out if R-Type Final 2 is a remaster of an older R-Type or if it's some new game. Let's see. What does this do? Imperial Mammoth. Or summon that. I think either one of those is useful. So I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do this. And then attack here.
Me fairies.
Attack here.
Stay away.
And attack there. Tech Raptor has a review for Bonkies, which looks like it's a player versus player game where the characters float around. They give it a 9.0. Bonky offers families and friends a hilarious way to play together through intense cooperative set in the vast unexplored unknown of space. This is way too long, a synopsis. Relaxing background music adds overall lighthearted nature of the game, but where's the mouse cursor? But that's not to say you can take it easy. You'd better be ready to get your act together and use your hand-eye coordination like your life depends on it, because when it comes to the space construction, there's definitely no monkeying around. That is an entire paragraph in a synopsis. Alright, well. Okay. Who do we want dead? We gotta kill that one. And then one
Let's play.
there.
You're done for.
If I don't kill this, then I'll lose anyways.
I failed to understand you.
The pros are hilarious gameplay, challenging physics-based puzzles, and adorable art and lovely music. The cons are difficult keyboard controls and playing alone is crappy, which inherently that means this game is not for me. Frankly, giving it a 9.0 though I think is asking a lot for what this game looks like. Even if it is maybe something different from what I think it is, still doesn't look that good. Well, the whole point of getting Forestcraft was to actually hopefully win. Apparently not. Here we have an article from TechRaptor called The Year of Pokemon Generation 4. I don't know if this means they're just going to cover every single Pokemon game and do retrospectives on it. I don't know if there's a real argument though for me to be interested in retrospectives of Pokemon games. I've actually played very little Pokemon games and have no real interest in playing too many of them. I would do like the remake of the first game. Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, and the new Pokemon Snap, and I'd be more than happy with that and that alone. Here we have a game on Steam, HROT, which is obviously an asset flip first-person shooter that looks like a 90s game. It's early access with a demo, English and Czech, but not actually available for purchase, interestingly enough. See, Gamma Sutra has an article here. Ori Charity Drive raises $58,000 for the Rainforest Trust, which that is a large amount of money, but it actually is pretty much a pathetic amount of money compared to Games Done Quick and the European Speedrunners Association events, which really, anytime I see these individual charity actions, it does feel kind of pathetic, and they should just partner with Games Done Quick. The only difference there is, I guess, maybe Ori's creator in this case actually did want to support the forest instead of usually the Games Done Quick events supporting cancer, something simplistic like that. There was a Games Done Quick I saw, or a European Speedrunner event I saw though, where they still have this thing where they read out every donation, and there should just be a little bit of editorial there. So like somebody donates money and then they say, I'm donating this because my friend died, and it's right in the middle of everybody joking and having a great time playing and speedrunning a game, and it just kills the momentum and kills the mood. I think it would be very easy to just have a rule that any bummer news or posts or message get put at the end. You could just say there's an in memoriam section at the end of each game stream. You could even potentially get more donations because of that. But yeah, you have to have a little bit more editorial control and not just be a Twitch streamer that interrupts their gameplay on every single ridiculous super chat type message. Let's see. Moving on. According to thegamer.com, more Hitman is coming. IO Interactive is already looking towards the future. Apparently they're going to try and remake some of the iconic levels in the previous Hitman reboot maps in the next game. Hitman's a weird experience though for me. I'm not sure I can actually ever get around to playing it. It would be a very short experience also for me, just playing the narrative experiences and ignoring the online stuff and the replayability factor. Let's see, I guess. Do this and do that. I drank like a malt milkshake and I think I might be allergic to malt or something. And I definitely wasn't feeling particularly smooth voiced this morning. Hopefully that's not it. Hopefully me having to do two things that took me out of my house this week hasn't led to me getting infected. I doubt it. I've been much more careful, I think, than most. It's just end of turn. Next, we have a game on Steam called Super Sports Blast, which seems to be a game that is focused around several different sports. So we have tennis and volleyball and soccer. Yeah, it says that right there. Which that might be an offer, a decent offering for $19.99. Bunch of languages. Seems like you customize the characters, so they don't really look like these.
It won't be long now.
Yeah, there might be an actual game here, so I'm gonna put this on the follow list and see how the reviews go. Tennis, soccer, and volleyball are also three of the lesser games that it would be fairly hard to find a good tennis game on Steam, and then a good volleyball game, then a good soccer game. There probably is a good soccer game, but I can't name any. Right, how are we gonna do this? Got. You can do 5 damage, so we'll do that. Then play that. And evolve this. Next, we have a game on Steam just called Blue Flame, which looks like a low-effort RPG Maker style game, although probably not actually made with RPG Maker. It's been 2 hours since we started streaming. This is $9.59. Yeah, I want to kind of hurry up here. Tech Raptor has an article here. Friday Night Funky fondly recalls Flash games. This is one of those titles where they like to put as many F words to tongue tie you. As many words to tongue tie you. So yeah, it seems like it's a simplistic rhythm game. And that seems to be about it. Apparently it's not on it's not even on Steam, wherever you get this game. Alright. Deal 5 damage.
There you are, my little trespasser. What an oath.
Misfortune approaches.
Planet Minecraft has The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX Optifine required demo, where someone has recreated the map of Link's Awakening, where you could wander around in Minecraft, which, okay, cool enough. I wouldn't be surprised if this got DMCA'd, so you might want to get a copy quick.
For the sake of the future.
You can kind of tell also that Link's Awakening as a landmass is not super large compared to just the ever-expanding worlds of Minecraft or custom worlds that streamers make when play with multiple people. Gamer Sutra has an article here. Australian games industry delivers a 29% revenue growth despite COVID-19. Which, okay, if Australia can just continue to be successful in that venture and not end up censoring themselves out of business, that would be good for them.
Let's play. I am How did I miss that?
Let's see.
Don't hurt me. This ends here. Bad people are evil.
Hit
Stay away.
that one. Hit that one.
May the forest be at peace.
Still gonna lose. Let's see. Video Games Chronicle here has a interview with Platinum on the PlayStation 5, Star Wars, and Forgetting About Bayonetta. So Hideki Kamiya and Atsushi Inaba discuss the Astral Chain Studios plan for 2021 and beyond. So there's a whole interview if that interests you. And see, I could spend the extra effort to like close all the visual annoyances on videogamechronicles.com, but I don't think I'm gonna get too many articles from that. I'd hate to see them completely forget about Bayonetta, because Bayonetta 3 is still in development, I think. And they do an event called the Platinum 4, and that's still gonna happen. Where they're gonna announce 4 like projects. But they'd already done that where they had like 4 projects to announce, and I don't think any of those projects have actually come out.
For me to prove myself.
Is fighting and despair all you know?
Next, we have a game on Steam here called Gravels of Endless War, which this just looks like a low-effort conversion of a tile placement tabletop game. It's free to play with in-app purchases, and it's only online PvP. See. TechRaptor has a review for Right, the Eye of Atlantis, which is a game that looked a lot like a Myst game to me, and it caught my eye certainly. I don't think I saw the review before. Here, this is jump to a dark screenshot section. It might be a VR only game. Yeah, I think it is. So that's the problem. It might be a decent VR game, but in actuality it might not be much of anything else. Yeah, that looked really, really weird. Let's see, they give it a 4.0. So yeah, that's definitely not a good review. Right attempts to tell a grand scale story in a Myst-inspired toolbox, but loses its own personality in trying to be bigger than what it's capable of, and trying to be smarter than it is. The pros are some good visuals and audio presentation. The cons are a messy narrative, inconsistent puzzles, and frustrating flat vocal performances. That's a shame. And in all fairness too, if I was to try to make a Myst-like game, I'd probably drop the ball and mess it up too. And I imagine a lot of people would. there's a decent argument that even the creators of Myst right now would drop the ball if they tried to make Myst, and that's why they've had to move on to working on their new game, which I think is called Figment instead, so they potentially can make a smaller focus, smaller quality game. That definitely was also the case with Abduction, is that was a Myst-like game, but it was in no way as good as Myst, and didn't really feel like it ever was going to promise that. Okay.
Help me, fairy.
Let's go and just kill that.
Figure it out.
Next we have a game on Steam called Rogun Arena, which looks like it's just an asset flip first person shooter with some platforming training also. Some of it looks pretty nice, but most of the screenshots have no enemies on it, and the gameplay seems to be more focused on showing platforming than actual shooting. It's early access, it's $7.19. That's a fairly high price, and an odd last 2 digits. English, but then with Russian full audio. Yeah, that's questionable. Let's see. Well, that worked out terribly.
You're done for. Making me worried like that?
Let's keep on moving. Here we have a game called Hangout Game, which seems to be a
Oh, be blessed.
Prince of Persia clone, low effort,
You were done
swinging by a vine game. $3.99 English Russian. Yeah, we are not getting any good quality today. Here we have a game called Boom Dojo, which just looks like a boxing VR game. It doesn't look terrible, but it's not visually polished enough for what I'd really want to see for a VR game in particular. $5.99 is a decent price, English only, but at a decent price, I still don't see why you wouldn't want to play something more popular like Beat Saber, and that you still run into the danger of punching something or hurting yourself because you're not getting that resistive force that you need. That's why the interactive punching bags they sell come with an actual punching bag that recognizes the impact. And frankly, it probably would be slightly cheaper to buy an interactive punching bag as a standalone, almost like single game console than it would be to buy a VR headset and then put on something that blinds you and punch virtual things.
Whoa, you're strong.
Let's see. Next, we have a game called the USB Stick Found in the Grass, which just looks like a full motion video game. That is supposed to be an investigation. It's $7.99 English and Polish. I think there's actually a game here. Interesting. They usually don't show this technology. These are called write blockers. They don't let you change any of the data, like governments and investigators use them. But ironically, the write blockers are not like hard coded to block writing, so there usually is a way, switch or something that you will let you actually write to them, which seems just kind of pointless. Yeah, this whole thing might be something of interest and it might not. It's $7.99. They're comparing it to Her Story. It does kind of feel like Her Story. It's English with full Polish. I'm gonna put this on the follow list and see what the reviews say. There might be some interesting thing there. And this was definitely not interesting to go through another challenge and end up with 5 failures. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. Alright. Dragoncraft. Unranked. Next we have a game called Manolith. You certainly can see why I just want to be done with a lot of these streams when you play for 2.5 hours and you literally get 0 victories. That's just not acceptable. The game's not helping me in any way to build a better deck. It's not making any suggestions.
This one's for my family.
I guess I could be playing pre-built decks, but even the pre-built decks I don't think really work. This game Manolith looks like it's nothing of interest. $14.99 English only. Just kind of looks like it's some magical platforming game of some sort. Just feels asset flippy, really. Let's see. Kimetsu has an article here. Kowloon High School Chronicle Physical Edition has been announced for Europe, due out in Q2 of 2021. This looks like some kind of horror visual novel from Arc System Works. Yeah. Some interesting looking characters that are drawn and filled in and shaded a little bit more. The camera seems a little bit more zoomed in. Yeah, I remember seeing that character with the weird bondage necklace. And this is like a dungeon crawler aspect. Interesting. Yeah. So it's not a visual novel. It's a dungeon crawler. Well, we haven't seen a lot of news or talk about dungeon crawlers lately. In fact, it's been probably 3 or 4 months since the last time we had any major dungeon crawlers announced or come out. And the games that were dungeon crawlers that were announced and came out were lewd anime girl games that were potentially getting censored or not allowed to be sold in the West on consoles. So perhaps in that one action of censorship that ruined that entire industry. Very possibly. Yep. And see, the problem with being unhappy with censorship is that you kind of have to constantly be unhappy with censorship. You have to be careful to not let it creep back in and not let ideas of censorship become mainstream and promoted. Yeah. We are definitely at least a generation away from the McCarthyism era in the United States, where they were doing pure censorship and cancel culture on anyone they didn't like. And the Comic Book Code Authority still kind of is having effects on comic books even to this day. And even the ESRB at a certain level is a censorship organization, and so is the movie rating system. Like, people got lazy certainly and stopped fighting against censorship. And we need to. I'd like to see people rise up against that mentality a lot more. see.
Verifying access.
That.
Broadcasting live. You're on the air.
Attack there.
Welcome home.
Attack there.
Stream on.
And attack there. Gnome has the 4th trailer for R-Type Final 2, so we can actually see what the game looks like. Which, that's definitely what I wanted to see. Yeah, it looks like an R-Type game. It looks like it's probably a newer game. Looks like there's all kinds of different ships you can fly as. Perhaps too many ships.
You ready for the good stuff?
I'm not really sure I would want to ever play an R-Type game as a side-scrolling shooter because it may just be too difficult,
Come in every
and
shade
I
imaginable.
may just not be interested in that type of gameplay. Gematsu has an article here.
In the ocean.
Toshihiro Nagoshi has stepped down as the Sega chief corporate officer or chief creative officer and become the creative director, which is almost like a demotion because creative director is not a top C-level position. Sega Sammy announces as its organizational restructure an absorption type corporate split of Sammy Corporation and Sega Corporation. Yeah, Sega Sammy merging was big news a long time ago, and
Verifying access.
now Sega's kind of not succeeding well. Let's see.
Be gone.
Yeah, what do we
Wanna go
want to
for a
do?
swim? Sploosh.
That,
You're on the air.
and then hit that.
This bears further study.
You
Hmm.
can do it.
I travel in search of the unknown.
All to find a brighter future for everyone.
There's a list here of other people at the top level who probably aren't really changing their position.
Been better off underwater.
It's kind of boring news, frankly. Industry insider news, though. Like, the bigger thing is Sega and Japanese game companies in general might struggle a little bit, but I don't expect them to all go out of business or anything. I don't expect them to really change their ways. That's not very Japanese to ever change your mind or admit a fault or mistake. At least until there's no longer a point where you can deny it. So yeah, I do think Sega will just double down, double down, double down. Ambush drain. Right, well, let's hit that.
How did I miss that?
And then let's evolve here.
It won't be long now.
I'm out of cash.
Next, we have a game on Steam here called Breath of the Forest, which has these kind of Native American looking characters in VR, but it seems like it really is just a stand in the same place and shoot arrows type game. Maybe you break some pots and take on some monsters also. But yeah, you have this leather clad archer lady. Just a very, very slow pan up here against this archer guy. Who's, I guess, some kind of demon with pierced eyelids.
I travel in search of the unknown.
But that's not the character that they were showing at the beginning. It's interesting, they're trying to have a whole story here and a whole collection of characters, but it really is still just a standard VR game. Like, you see this kind of Native American girl, and you see her walking to a specific area, and then She knows his danger. And a lot of this does feel very asset flippy. It requires VR. It's coming soon. It's English and Portuguese Brazil. So it's kind of all over the place. TechRaptor has a review here for the game Gods Will Fall, which looks like this might be an interesting hack and slash game by the screenshots. But apparently not. We've had a massive amount of bad games. Now, how much of this has to do with the fact that we are just in that first quarter of 2021 where all the bad games that missed Black Friday and Christmas come out? Or is this just because of the pandemic also? It's probably a little bit of both, but we definitely are seeing a run here of some pretty awful games. TechRaptor says Gods Will Fall is a good looking and atmospheric roguelike, but its weak controls and repetitive nature makes it hard to replay. Pros are gorgeous visuals, varied level design, and terrific atmosphere. Cons, poor controls, lack of character progression, unfair and cheap difficulty, little replay value. Now, we also might be in a scenario here, since TechRaptor is hiring new reviewers and writers, where the overall narrative voice of the reviewers might be inconsistent or even just downright opposite of what I would believe. So I do have to keep a small eye out for that potentially being a scenario also. But it has been a fairly long time since I've seen anybody's review from any place that I just think is an invalid review, because I've managed to mute and not follow most of those video game critics from Twitter. So I don't see the crazy SJW reviews that spend 3 paragraphs talking about why Animal Crossing space bonds are cultural appropriation, which, by the way, that was a real story that I didn't cover, and Nintendo has come out and said anybody can wear the space buns.
Let's play.
Help me, fairies. I'm gonna rest for a bit.
Let's see, next we have a game on Steam called Astro Kicker, which just looks like a ugly space shooter game. Early access for $8.49, English full audio. Yeah, we're also seeing bad low effort games too, so we've just hit a point here, I think. Destroying that doesn't do much for us. So let's just destroy that. Do that. And then hit that and that. Next we have a game called Brittle the Game, which looks like it's a collection of like low effort puzzles. It is tagged as a hidden object game. $3.99 English only. Nothing there of interest. For a second there, it almost looked like it was a Braille game. Okay. Can we do this?
Let's play.
And then this.
Let's play.
And then hit that one. And then hit that one. And then do that one. Next we have a game on Steam here called Messiah End Refrain. Messiah End being one word. And this looks like it's a low effort kind of Castlevania clone. Like a massive amount of the trailer just seems to be nothing. English is not supported, $4.99, Japanese only. So this looks like a unpolished Japanese game. But even in the case, you can see somebody was trying here to really animate something that looked nice. They took an effort here to draw this character, and on the thumbnail this character does look like that character. So there's not a lot of deception there. But then you look at the rest of the game and it's definitely lacking. Right. Kill that.
You are forgiven.
And then that.
Circles and circles.
And in the turn. Next we have a game called Don't Get Bit, which looks like it's a turn-based strategy game. I kind of like the flat animation style here. If you were to make a Walking Dead game that was somewhat like this, that would be fine by me. This actual gameplay loop, though, looks pretty terrible. And I'd have to say no to that for that reason. $9.99 English full audio. And I'm wearing out my voice. Is this nearly every Friday? It feels like I wear out my voice. Which, yeah, I guess that means I'm not likely to do a great job continuing to record Lorelei.
I will rise again.
How could you? Time to dance.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Fire Scout, which looks visually polished more, but still is probably a first-person shooter.
Just getting started.
Not really seeing any enemies.
No one's getting yours.
Seems like it's just random robots.
Oh, come on.
$9.99 English full audio. Yeah. I don't see anything of interest there. I don't even know what the sales pitch really would have to be to convince me that I would want to play a first-person shooter.
Not one for praise. Serves me right.
1,
Let's
2,
play. Let's
3.
play. Let's play. You're done for. Assume me.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Saving Mr. Sparkles, which looks like it's just a ugly frustration platformer for $4.99. Bunch of languages. I'm not gonna give it any more time of day. Next, we have a game called Dual Cars, which looks like a probably infinite runner where you're controlling 2 cars at the same time by the looks of it. Which at a certain level, that probably means if you can just keep them in the middle, you're probably safe most of the time. 84 cents, English only. Nothing there of interest. Okay. I can do this
Hear the voices of
and
the
survive,
gather here by my side.
which I can't.
It won't be long now. For the forest, for Mother Nature wins of true courage. My hands are tied.
Let's see. Gematsu has an article here. Ys 6 Online, the Ark of Nepistim for iOS and Android launches this spring in Japan. Which I guess this is a cell phone spin-off Ys game. Seriously, I'm just gonna go home. I'm taking my toys and I'm going home. Literally not a single victory in 2 hours and 40 minutes of gameplay. It's just ridiculous. Might as well just go back to playing solo missions at this rate. And see, one of the things I wanted to see is if I come over here and I choose this, Can I swing this way and like play a pre-built deck? I guess you could play these instead. So is aggro Shadowcraft potentially something that would be better than what I'm doing? Maybe, but the game's not even telling me that I should be playing that. Also, I think I can only do that in unranked. I don't think I can play those decks in ranked. That would be a little unfair. Although maybe not that unfair. Next, we have a game on Steam called Please Wake Up, which seems like it's a horror asset flip game where you might spend a lot of time just in this hospital. It's $5.09. English full audio. Well, we had a slight internet hiccup there, but still really not having anywhere close to the problems I was having on my cell phone. I really do think it's just it was always a signal issue that then I made a bigger issue by making my own mistakes. This next game is called Arrow, as in Eros, the god of love. Snooker, typically that means an adult game, but I don't think there's actually any adult content in it more than just the background is a woman in her underwear on the thing. There's nothing is marked as adult content. It's $5.99, which is way too expensive, even if it were a good-looking snooker game. And so, yeah, this is like what would happen if a Westerner tried to make a awful. Oh, you know what it is? She's topless, and they've censored the screenshots with an 8-ball, a flaming 8-ball. So yeah, you get a topless image of boobs, and maybe it's not even that much. You may not actually see nipples at all. But yeah, this flaming 8-ball, I assume, is not actually in the game. It moves between screenshots a little bit too. But yeah, it's really a pathetic garbage game. Here, TechRaptor has a review for that game, Disjunction. Let's see what they have to say. I don't have great hopes right now, considering every other review we've seen has been pretty bad. Well, they say it's a 9.0. Good. Disjunction might be the cyberpunk game we've all been waiting for. Fun, open-ended gameplay, unique abilities and intuitive skill trees, superb art, direction, atmosphere, branching story paths, and dialogue options. The only cons or difficulty can be overwhelming at times. They could use more save points. Well, that is a reassuring review. Let's see.
I want to get
Hit
it all
that.
back.
And then what do I want to do?
What did I want gold again?
Next, we have a game on Steam called A Painter's Tale, Huron, 1950. This feels like it's a walking simulator following the life of a painter, which would be fine until you see this blocky animation, which is just completely in no relation to these paintings and the rest of the art that I'd seen in the game up until this point. That just seems really, really disconnected. $7.99, English, Italian, German. Is there some way I could possibly put this on the following list, or is it just too asset flippy looking for a game about a painter? It almost feels like they're trying to do something interesting here where the real world looks like Minecraft and then the paintings look like the real world. So like an alternate reality. I just don't think I'd buy it. I just think it's an asset flip game. So I'm gonna skip that one.
I won't hurt you.
Gnome has an article here. Project One Room is officially cancelled. The producer has given up on plans to revive the project. Let's see. Apparently, Project Run Room was a tribute to the 2000 release Sega Dreamcast cult classic Room Mania number 203, which I don't know what that is. Like, this must have been a very Japanese game that never came to the West. What does this do? Can we do anything? Ambush ward. Let's just do this. Bury that one. And then bury that one.
Darling, you complete me.
Why would the dead need a living wage?
And then
Love can't be stopped.
Breach of contract, huh?
go ahead and attack here too.
My dreams are what
It sure kind of sucks that the story, the solo story of this game just ended where it did also. That really went nowhere. Let's see. Next we have a article here from Gamatsu. Doraemon Nobita's Little Star Wars 2021 game has been delayed in Japan. I don't know if this has anything to do with the Star Wars movies or not. Apparently this was also an animated movie they were going to make. It very possibly might be a parody of Star Wars that they were making a game and a movie series after it. And that just goes to show how everything's getting delayed. Here we have a game called Earth Warrior, which looks like it's polygonal creatures just wandering around. This is $5.99, English only, nothing there interests me. Alright, let's play that.
Does this outfit make me look too old?
Want to play?
Let's see. See, Earth Warriors is $5.99 and it's a VR game, English only. And I'm desperately trying to finish everything. Sakuna of Rice and Ruin shipments and digital sales have topped 850,000. That's a pretty big number, particularly considering it was a somewhat niche looking game in the first place. Let's see. See. Let's do this.
Mother, father, please.
Hit that. Hit that. I probably am not playing the best. Next we have a game called Kapute Crayons Chapter 1, which looks like it's a visual novel. Japanese only, maybe. It's tagged as experimental. $1.69, which is pretty cheap. English, Japanese and Chinese only. But that's an interesting idea to have chapter and episodic releases for visual novels to bring the price down. But I don't think many people would be willing to submit to that. Too many people would read the first chapter of a visual novel and never get around to buying the second chapter. Although maybe in Japanese that's not the case. That the mangas that go on forever, people commit to reading a lot of that. At least they seem like they do. Okay. Have we performed Necromancer, gain Storm? Rush. Okay. So if I do this,
The uncharted desert awaits.
and then do this, then
What
I
do we
can
have
do
here?
that.
I'll see you in purgatory.
And then I can do this and hit that. Then hit that.
I wasn't good enough.
Play that. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Finger Fortress, which looks like it's just a tower defense game of the sorts. Free to play, Chinese, single player, and online player versus player, PvP.
This whip is an extension of
A
my
game
master
called
files of
Endurance
battle
Space Action is now available for pre-order. Which, man, I wish these links would show me more screenshots that tell me about the games.
Now
See,
you really
next we have a game on Steam here called
war is so
The Demon Rush
intoxicating.
Legends Corrupt, which they warned of having adult content here. It looks like it's a low effort asset flip game. $17.99, English only. They're claiming is rated ESRB, rated M.
Emotions have only made me
Yeah,
stronger.
that totally didn't work. I just wasted 9 points there. Next we have a game called Fit Force, which seems to be
You're too
able to
strong.
recognize your movements from a cell phone, which definitely seems like a better system than having to use Wiimotes. It's rated very positively. It's free to play. Within app purchases, English and Thai. Well, I guess you don't need VR for it, so I'm going to put this on the fall list. But this is definitely also a game that I couldn't really ever cover or play. So there's something to be said about that too. Let's leave the games and let's just cover the video game news here. See, Raiden 4X Mikado Remix has a debut trailer, which looks like a Raiden game. Let's see. We have an OpenCritic article here. Save files cannot be transferred to next-gen versions of Control. So Control is once again having mistakes. This is also another one of these articles that it's not letting me scroll down for some reason. Yeah, Control is doing a really bad job of supporting their own game. The makers of Control are doing a bad job of supporting their own game, to the point where they have unsold me on ever playing any future or past games from that company. I didn't like the Alan Wake game that I played anyways. I have American Nightmare, but I think I'll probably just skip it. And I don't think I'd be buying any of the other games that they might make in the future or the past. Gametsu has Buddy Mission Bond's opening movie, which this is what kind of game? It looks like it might be a visual novel, but I'm not sure it is. Wouldn't be surprised if it's some kind of strategy game or even fighting game. And this is just going to be one of those trailers that doesn't really tell you. They're calling it a Koei Tecmo developed adventure game, which is now available in Japan, so maybe it won't make it to the West. Skip some games. Do it. Skip some games. Let's see. Randy Pitchford's tweeting out some shift codes and Gearbox officials retweeting them. But in the aspect of him tweeting out shift codes, he also attached this animated GIF of what looks like either a creepy young boy holding a golden key or a creepy young girl with a long nose and a shirt showing a full belly. Yeah, keeping it classy, Randy. The only reason I was even here didn't have anything to do with this. They tweeted out 21 hours ago they were honored to have Borderlands 3 Gun, Love, and Tentacles nominated for Outstanding Video Game in the 32nd Annual GLAAD Media Awards. This DLC focused a lot around a gay relationship between, I believe, these two characters, which are kind of secondary characters in the Borderlands world, but I don't really think there's much of a problem there. At some point, Gearbox and Borderlands went from being kind of a gamer bro, jockish, probably a little homophobic a group of audience and people to becoming an attempted woke group, which I don't know how you really get to that point and maintain your comedy. I think probably that also inherently would hurt your comedy a lot, and that's probably why we haven't seen any major praises sung around Borderlands 3. The genre's tired, the writing's tired. It probably was not a series that needed a trilogy in the first place. They could have had Borderlands games that were just called Borderlands, and they were more like Call of Duty, Modern Warfare games where there weren't characters connected, particularly after like Borderlands 2. Here we have Gamatsu's Platinum Games 5th Platinum 4 announcement, smaller in scale, but something fans will get a kick out of. So, yep, that's what they're promising. But they haven't done the announcement yet. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna mute Shift Status because Shift Status also had some trouble that they resolved. And yeah, I don't really need to report on Shift, the Gearbox service. I still, frankly, would not be surprised if a Borderlands 4 starts development by 2K and Gearbox does not make it. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article here. Rance Quest Magnum is now available from Manga Gamer, February 25th, which this looks like this is an adult focused JRPG. So Manga Gamer is selling it directly. We haven't seen Manga Gamer advertised through TechRaptor this year so far, so that's the first instance I've noticed. Let's see, Gamasutra has an article here. Ninja Theory's Bleeding Edge is staying online, but it won't receive any new content, so it's dead in the water, effectively. TechRaptor has an article here, and again, this may not be video game news worth mentioning, but the Black Lotus has destroyed previous sales with a record 500,000 auction. Let's see. Here we have another Open Critic article that I can't scroll down. Enter the Gungeon and more highlight the Stadia Pro games for February, which I definitely had forgotten that Stadia was giving out games at all, or basically that Stadia even existed still and was out. Gamatsu has Thomas Was Alone for Switch launching February 19th. This is a game I feel like a lot of people have talked about, but always looks to me like it's just so simplistic in the graphics that I've not been willing to give it the time of day. Probably to my own mistake. Let's see. Second Dinner has decided to support this thing called Gamers for Chalk. Chalk being the Children's Hospital of OC, which I guess is Orange County. If we see here, let's go to the sponsors tab. We can see Disneyland Resort and several other organizations have supported it. And yeah, Second Dinner is way at the bottom here. So it seems like companies are starting to support things they can donate to get tax write-offs, which, yeah, that would kind of make sense, although typically I would expect donations to pour in later to the fourth quarter than the first quarter, but businesses often have different financial years, so this might be their prime time to donate to charities to get tax write-offs. Moving on, Gnome has an article here. The next generation Pinball FX has been announced. I've been very bad about playing any of the Pinball FX games I've bought or the Pinball Arcade games I've bought, but I'm still glad to own them. Have the opportunity. Pinball FX engine, when I was playing Pinball FX 2, felt a little rough. I'm not sure I've ever even played Pinball X3, but I could certainly hope that the next generation of Pinball FX is better physics that doesn't inherently fix the bigger issue of most Pinball FX games just not being real pinball tables, and they're just designed differently and they don't feel realistic or real world and they don't feel great. But maybe they'll address that also. See, Gamasutra has an article here, how Monster Hunter World directors breathe new life into the game's old bones, which I guess if that interests you, check out that article. I do feel like Monster Hunter World did something different that we'll have to wait and see if the next Monster Hunter game continues that new path and convinces more Westerners to play Monster Hunter games. TechRaptor has an article here. Evil Genius 2 World Domination is coming to conquer the world soon, which I kind of do feel like I might just spotlight Evil Genius 1. I remember when playing Evil Genius 1, it felt like a game that just kind of went on forever and was really difficult to win. And so I would like to potentially, if I am going to play Evil Genius 1 all the way through, I'd like to be able to kind of just speedrun it and play it on easy. And if that's not a real opportunity, then it might turn into a rage quit or a speedrun just to get to the other side of that game so that I could play Evil Genius 2. TechRaptor has an article here. Sea of Thieves Season 1 has officially begun, which is insane considering Sea of Thieves has been out for a very, very long time. And I still don't feel like there's a real reason to play Sea of Thieves. TechRaptor has an article here. Survival MMO the day before lets you explore post-pandemic United States of America, which, okay. I don't know if that's them being cheeky or if that's actually the narrative. Like, it would be very easy for anybody who was working on a zombie-style game a year or two ago and knew it was coming out at this point for them to just quickly change the narrative and say, oh no, the zombies are based on what happened with COVID. But then you're dating your game and that just may not be the best experience. Let's go over here and just make sure there's not any new main story. It says it's complete. Yeah, it's all complete. And then these quests. This is the quest. This ends in a couple days. Alright. Everything's gonna change in a couple days. I guess that's the case. Yeah, the cell phone game I'm playing, Destiny Child, the lewd cell phone game, they put out new content for Valentine's Day, which is a fairly interesting story. Basically turning the usually linear stories into feeling more like a visual novel branching past story, although I'm not sure it really does branch the past much. Next, we have a TechRaptor article. Returnal has been delayed to get extra polish, which this game has been announced and delayed all deep within the pandemic, so that feels like that was just bad management at that point. Here we have a TechRaptor article. Balin's Wonderworld's colorful but simple world. Yeah, it looks like a simplistic JRPG that they're doing a article about. They're not even saying if it's on Steam or what. And then Komatsu has Fantasy Tavern Sextet Volume 2 Adventurous Days coming to PC on February 18th. So it's first released on the Switch January 14th. Here you've got some major cleavage and skin showing, so this does feel like this is one of those RPGs with adult content in it. It's tagged as a visual novel. Okay, well then that brings me to the Humble Bundle, so let's just go through these games on Steam too. I have about 10 more tabs. Here's one called Whone, W-H-O-N-E. Calling it a platforming adventure, early access $14.99. I'm not seeing enough of a game here. Yeah, it just feels a little too asset flippy for me. Next we have a game called Frontier Quest, which is tagged as a JRPG 2D puzzle game with turn-based combat. I don't see anything here that's really JRPG though. There might be something to this. This almost feels like Yoshi's Woolly World type art style. 1079 English only. I'll give it a follow. Probably won't actually ever play it. Here we have a game called Partition Sector, which clearly is just a low effort game. $7.64. Next we have a game called Deep Enigma, which looks like it's a Metroidvania style game with visuals that don't look polished enough, and it's not really showing me any enemies. Maybe the screenshots are just bad. No, the zoom in here is a problem too. Yeah. $9.99 English only. Yeah, the scale is all off. Next we have a game called In It Together, which seems like a bad graphics kind of arcade style game. Shoots and ladders type game. $9.99 English only. Man, we really just got a huge collection of terrible games today. Here we have one called Lothai Trial of Memories, which they say is a board game. But to me it looks like it's kind of a combination of multiple board games or puzzles. Some of it looks somewhat pretty. $2.54 English only. I'll be generous. I probably, if I looked at this video, would not really need to be that generous. you choose a path, and so you have a path chosen scene with some animation there. Then you choose a stage, and then you play some kind of board game. It seems like it's probably just match cards, match the tiles, memory. Yeah, that's what that's called. That game is just called Memory. Ironic, I can't remember the name of the game Memory. Let's see. Next we have a game called Buildmark, which they're calling a ray tracing sandbox, and Benchmark, which is not from any company that would be held into high enough esteem to really be a benchmark. And honestly, it just looks like they've asset flipped a building engine of Unity or Unreal and sold it to you. $10.99, English only. Yeah, I don't think there's anything there of interest. Next, we have a game called Flying Frags World Tour, which looks like an asset flip first-person shooter. $4.25. What's surprising me more than anything is how many of these are just English only. Whereas before, I would have expected half of these to be like English and Chinese. Next, we have Gnome Jigsaw puzzles, which nothing more really needs to be said other than that. I guess if you're obsessed with gnomes and jigsaw puzzles, $1.59's not asking too much, but yeah, save your $1.59 and don't play something like that. Next, we have a game called Lost Caves, which doesn't look visually polished enough and looks like it's kind of a Metroidvania too. We've seen a lot of Metroidvania type games. 99 cents, English only. At least that price is right, and visually this doesn't look terrible. Yeah, if you'd seen a game that looked like this and seemingly played the way this looks like it plays, this would probably be considered a very, very good game in the late 70s, even early 80s. But nowadays, there's just no room for that type of game. Next, we have Nox Arcist, or Arcast, and this definitely looks like a 60s game at best. This looks awful. $19.99 for that. Third-party EULA, English allegedly full audio. That's bull. Alright, and so then that cleans up everything for me. And then that brings me to the Humble Bundle store. Let's see if we've got any new bundles to mention. Programming Fundamentals books bundle, I think we already covered that. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get any new bundles for a couple days until we're into February. So then that can bring me back to my Twitter feed. Let's see. The new Chaku Game Awards winners have been revealed. Guess we can cover that on this Friday. And what else? Techcrafter is putting more guides based on the game The Medium. That's the game I couldn't remember the name of earlier. Yeah, The Medium was the first exclusive for Xbox Series. Valve Corporation and several game developers are being sued over Steam prices. That's an article we should look at. Yeah, so the fact that The Medium was the first solo game and it's not being reviewed well, and it really isn't an outstanding example of like great graphics or great gameplay design, does not highlight the capabilities of the series, which I feel like they should have had at least one thing to show off, at least. Jeff Dunham, the comedian with puppets, apparently has put on YouTube that him playing Myst in VR, which I don't know if that really is video game news or newsworthy. Like some somewhat successful, famous comedian playing video games. Like the last thing I'd wanted to see is comedians or actors taking away like views from small time video game critics. I really wouldn't care if they stole views from places like Giant Bomb and other places like that, but it would be a little bit of both. And at a certain level, a lot of the personalities of the people at Giant Bomb are trying to be their own style of comedians, and they just can't even succeed at stand-up comedy, which frankly is hard to succeed at, but that Well, there might be some political news. Somebody retweeted something, but I'm not going to even bother touching it because it's not video game related. You have a whole bunch of visual novels coming out. Two, so. See, I think I've scrolled down to almost where I was. So we're gonna have about 10 more tabs to talk about. Yeah. Okay. So can I show the Nutaku Game Awards? Yes, I can via TechRaptor. Nutaku is the adult game site that publishes pretty bad adult games. I'm still playing College Days on theirs, and they added new content, but I'm not sure they added a full relationship, because I was like, you date characters, and I was dating one character, and then it filled up the meter to go to the next level, and now the next level won't go any further. And they definitely have failed to just consistently add enough new content for the game to justify playing it on a daily basis, or putting any like actual money in it. But they gave themselves an award, so they give Project QT an award, and several awards here. Booty Calls, several awards. Magica, Kami DX, Harem Heroes, FAP CEO, SF Girls, Ninja Maiden, Custom Order Made 3D2, and Busty Biz. So they made enough awards here to give pretty much all of their successful games from 2020 something. It's just self-promotion, which that's true when the Steam Awards does it also, but at least Steam has thousands of games on their storefront, or at least hundreds of games they compete against from different companies, and it isn't just blatant self-promotion. It's actually at least somewhat feels like a actual striving for excellency. Whereas Nutaku games and most adult games are not striving for excellency at all. TechRaptor has this article: the Valve Corporation and game devs are facing an antitrust lawsuit. Yeah. Including CD Projekt Red and Ubisoft. This is probably very similar to the same claims that were made by EU and got them fined in the EU. It'll be interesting to see if the same results happen in the United States. Here we have a game on Steam called Dragon Creek, which, yeah, this looks like this might be slightly interesting, but it is, I think, just a dragon raising simulator, which that might be asking a little too much. Early access, $12.74, English only. Yeah, that's asking too much for that price. If you had told me it was $1.99, I'd consider it. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article. The Steam Game Festival returns February 2021. They probably announced this to cover up the announcement of the lawsuit. You can demo upcoming games, watch live streams, and chat with the devs. Let's see. They're probably not going to tease too many new games, nor are they going to announce too many new features. Is like Dive Cook, Black Book. Do I recognize any of these games, or are these just all new games that haven't even been announced? Those all feel like new announcements to me. Let's see. Well, it's all going to be taking place between February 3rd, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and February 9th, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll check it out. I'm not sure that I'll actually buy any more games. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article. A lost game called Power Up Baseball is unearthed by the Video Game Hall of Fame. Which, okay. Yeah, I wonder how many lost games there are out there. There's probably a lot of tech demos, but things that are close to finished games are probably less likely to exist. Yeah, it doesn't look like a terrible baseball game for its time either. Here we have a game on Steam called Geridian Strike Force, which is just either a shoot 'em up game or a Galaga clone for $1.99. No interest there. Here we have a game called Anilin, which kind of feels like it's a Mario game if Mario was a girl. An arcade style game. Yeah, it definitely feels inspired by Donkey Kong Jr. I guess that might be better. But then they're being chased by different snakes like Pac-Man. $4.99 single player. I'm going to put this on the fall list. There might actually be a decent attempt at making a classic arcade game in modern time. At a certain level, though, that still might be really, really dumb. It does kind of feel like this is half Pac-Man, half Dig Dug, taking a lot of concepts of a lot of different arcade games and merging them together. Which, at a certain level, if that's what you could have done with the technology inside of arcade games, that would have been something they should have done. But honestly, that technology evolved leaps and bounds with each new arcade board to the point where copying and pasting wasn't really capable of happening. Plus, all that was hard-coded in assembler, so stealing other people's ideas was harder than it sounds. Here we have a game tagged with sexual content and nudity, but it's YouTube family friendly in all of the screenshots, called Slavish Dragon Princess. It seems like it fairly obviously is a visual novel. Doesn't look terrible. $13.49, Japanese full audio, English. Guess the real question though is, am I putting these types of games on the fall list? I guess, considering how many bad games we saw today, I think it probably deserves at least a follow. And then we have a game called Melancholy Love, which is tagged as a LGBTQ plus romance visual novel, but no sexual content or nudity in this one. This one looks like it's probably animated a little bit nicer too in the characters. It's $7.64 English and Chinese, which that's surprising, frankly. Like, I'm not 100% sure at what level homosexuality is allowed to be promoted, particularly in a game from a Chinese developer. So yeah, I'm gonna put a follow on this and kind of keep an eye on it. But yeah, that gives me 2 more tabs. Here we have one called Groove, which is just a top-down space shooter. Asteroids clone. It's been a while since we've seen an Asteroids clone. $1.19 English only. Nothing there that would make it to the fall list. And then we have a game here called Untrusted, a social deduction hacking game, which does not visually look polished enough to interest me. It's early access, free to play, cross-platform multiplayer, requires a third-party account, which, yeah, I don't know who would be, frankly, dumb enough to make a third-party account at a site called playuntrusted.com to play a game called Untrusted. That seems like you're just asking for trouble. Alright, well, that's this stream. We went 3 hours and 26 minutes. I guess I'll have to take it easy this weekend. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.